Welcome to the Mixed Race Belonging podcast, where we explore the intersection of mixed identity and belonging through the lens of somatics and personal and collective liberation to help you heal your belonging wounds and reconnect with your innate wholeness through relationships, new experiences, and activism. I'm your host, Raina Legrand, an embodiment coach for mixed race people with a background as a trauma therapist, yoga teacher, and health educator. The tools and insights I share with you here are the approach that has not only helped me heal my belonging wound, but also helped me help my mixed race clients do the same. We all need something good to belong to right now. Relationships and spaces where we feel safe, held, seen, heard, and dignified. Thanks for being here, and let's get started with today's show. Everybody loves the sunshine. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Oh, it's solstice week. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Happy solstice week, blessed solstice week. I hope that you all got to enjoy the solstice in whatever way felt best for you, whether that was just some extra time outside, staying up late, watching Love Island, or having a bonfire. Or maybe getting to do some little solstice ritual work. Um, I had a really lovely, slow weekend that included attending my friend Haley Thomas's solstice reset workshop, where she walked us through some of the basics of animism and some rituals that we could use, some animist rituals that we could use for the solstice. And special shout out to Haley. She is a fellow Instagram therapist and coach. We met on the gram. She is also biracial, and she's great. You can find her at Chicory Counseling. And then, in addition to that, I spent some time lounging in the sun reading an advanced copy of a book called Mixed Roots: Writers on Multiracial Identity and Both and Belonging, edited by my new friend Ann Lou Keller. Um, so amazing that I have met truly like actual friends on Instagram. And I also feel blessed that I've gotten like 3 advanced copies of books through some of those relationships because, as you might know, I'm a book nerd, I'm a bookworm, and I have implemented a new segment that I've been primarily using in my interviews called Reading Rainbow. Picture the sparkle or rainbow going over my beautiful head. And I'm going to bring that segment to this episode too. So you're actually getting a 2-for-1 because I already mentioned Mixed Roots, which is a book that comes out in October. So stay tuned. I'm also hoping to interview Anne on the show when she is launching the book. But I also wanted to tell you all about a novel I recently read. Novels are my favorite thing to read before bed. I read every night before bed, most nights before bed. And I just always happen to find novels that are about biracial and multiracial people. And so that's part of what like inspired me to start including this segment, because I think novels are a way that we can see ourselves in characters, right? And like feel recognized and validated. Also memoirs too. But yeah, novels are, like an interesting way to kind of explore your identity and the similarities and the differences that you share with all other mixed race people. So the novel I'm going to tell you about today is called Keeper of Lost Children by Sadiqa Johnson. This is actually a historical fiction piece, and it's based on the thousands of biracial children who were born out of wedlock in Germany during World War II. So these children had German mothers and Black American fathers who were soldiers and stationed in Germany. And many of them ended up being abandoned to orphanages because their mothers feared the public scrutiny that came with having a brown child and having a brown child out of wedlock. In the author's note, Siddiqa also talks about how many of the Black soldiers who wanted to marry their German girlfriends to, kind of resolve that piece, actually couldn't get approval from the U.S. Army, and of course, there were some who just wanted to return home and had, been um, married or dating women in America, and didn't want to kind of bring that baggage back with them. So there was a wife of one of these Black soldiers who ended up making it her personal quest to get a lot of these babies adopted by Black families, both stationed in Germany and back in America. So this book weaves the story of that woman, though more fictionalized, as well as some of those what were called brown babies or war babies, and it's a really touching novel. I recommend it. I mean, Sadiqa Johnson is an amazing author. I recommend anything that she's written. Um, and um, I just really appreciate, as someone who, hasn't always been a history buff my whole life, I feel like I've started to appreciate and learn about history more as I've gotten older. But sometimes reading history books can feel very dense for my neurocomplex brain. And so reading in novel form is kind of motivating for me to then dig into some of these concepts more deeply after I finish a book. So there you go. There's your reading Rainbow for the week. And now we're going to get into the meat of what we're really going to be talking about this week, which is the belonging wound, the mixed belonging wound. And actually, thinking about this book, The Keeper of Lost Children, is kind of a perfect segue because the mixed belonging wound is really the result of living in a society, living in a world um, under the colonial project of race, which has been used to shape who belongs where and who has access to what. And also, like, who belongs together, whether certain couples or family members belong together. And those of us who don't fit into these categories that undergird the dominant social order, we suffer because everybody's basically participating in this social order in one way or another. And all the microaggressions, the gatekeeping, the not having our reality mirrored back to us, feeling unseen and unrecognized, that all communicates to us both explicitly and implicitly, consciously and subconsciously, that we don't fit in, and more painfully, that we don't belong. But the mixed belonging wound, it doesn't just reflect what's happened to you. It also shapes how you show up in your relationships and in the world. So let me break this down and give you some examples. One, maybe you want to feel more connected to your heritage, but you feel like you can't learn about your ancestors' spiritual traditions or explore cultural spaces because you're afraid of being seen as an imposter. So you self-select out of those experiences, and then you are left with this huge void in your life, but maybe you figure it's just always going to be this way. Like, this is the reality you were born into. Two, maybe you want to feel closer to other people, but you're afraid to talk openly about your experiences as a mixed race person because maybe they won't understand. Maybe they'll question you. Maybe they'll reject you. Maybe these are actually experiences you've had in the past, right? So you end up isolating yourself and you opt out of activities that really interest you. You opt out of certain groups that you could be a part of, and you just feel even more lonely in the end. Three, maybe you want to get involved in activism or organizing, but you're not really sure how much space you should take up or if your personal experiences with racism, quote unquote, count. You just stay at home scrolling videos and experiencing FOMO. And at the end of the day, you just kind of feel useless while the world is burning around you because you don't know where to insert yourself. Four, when people ask about your identity, you compulsively describe yourself in fractions in order to make sense to them. And then you spiral out for the rest of the week wondering what they thought about you. And 5, maybe you want to practice your native or ancestral language at restaurants or when you travel, but you're afraid of speaking with an accent, being called a coconut, making mistakes, or being judged. You envy everybody who grew up as native speakers and that seem to feel so at ease in cultural spaces. So, if any of these experiences resonate with you, you might have a mixed race belonging wound. And this means that even though there are some very understandable protective patterns at work when you interact with others, because this wound and this shaping comes from somewhere, it also means that you are missing out on opportunities to feel more connected to other people and more fulfilled in your life because you're afraid of letting yourself be seen. That feels so vulnerable to expose yourself in that way. Sometimes people describe it to me as like they're afraid of feeling found out, that somebody will see that they really aren't enough or they don't know enough about the culture. And this can look a few different ways. It might look like people pleasing, overextending yourself, kind of doing whatever you can to stay in connection with people or to build relationships to the point of really losing yourself in those connections. It might look like staying in surface level relationships and never going deeper. It might look like you just withdraw and isolate. You feel like, why bother? Like, I'm just going to go full lone wolf mode. It might also feel like you kind of pop around to these different strategies depending on the situation, the circumstance, and where you are in your life. And either way, at the end of the day, you're not letting yourself be seen at all. And being seen in all your vulnerabilities and in your needs and your interests and your imperfections, that is what actually builds relationships and builds intimacy. But this is really hard with the mixed race belonging wound because this wound causes this sort of fragmentation in us where one part of you wants connection and other parts of you are really carrying all those memories of being misunderstood, mischaracterized, rejected. And that part of you might feel pretty hopeless about your prospects for actually fitting in or finding belonging. And our bodies, with this kind of wounding, they err on the side of caution. And so they start to anticipate rejection and abandonment around every corner. And this becomes the lens through which you see relationships through and you see your experiences and the world through. So it's almost like things become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I want to be very clear that this belonging wound is not your fault. It is a trauma. It is the impact of mono-racism on your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul, but it also doesn't define you. You are so much underneath all that trauma. And this belonging wound, it doesn't have to be the whole narrative for your life. Opportunities for belonging are infinite. And that's why I'm so excited that in July, we are starting inside the Mixed Race Belonging Collective, my tried and tested belonging building blocks curriculum. It is designed to address this wound directly. It is full of information and somatic practices and opportunities to connect with other mixed people so that you can finally feel more confident in who you are. You can feel more relaxed in social situations, and you can feel more courageous, more bold, more audacious to be authentic and vulnerable with others. So you can actually make it past surface level connections and build the community that you have been longing for your entire life. I'm going to be teaching content and guiding you through somatic practices that have helped my clients feel more whole, more resilient, and more courageous to make these big shifts in their lives. Here are some examples. One, I had a client who left a long term toxic relationship without worrying about ending up all alone. That had been her fear for a long time and why she'd stayed in the relationship. But because of the Belonging Building Blocks curriculum, she finally felt like she had the skills and the capacity to develop new, more fulfilling relationships and also to enjoy her time alone, to enjoy solitude instead of feeling lonely. I have also helped clients finally set boundaries in their relationships without waffling. You know, I don't know if you've had the experience of setting a boundary and then kind of like backtreading out of it because you're worried about being rejected or abandoned. I've helped clients finally set these boundaries and hold them because they had a deeper embodied sense of trust that the right people would respect their needs and that the right people were out there. I think a big product of participating in this kind of curriculum is you start to see that relationships actually aren't scarce, that there are multitude of relationship opportunities out there. There's billions of people in the world. And so there's always opportunities to meet more people. We also take an animist approach in this program as well. So we think about relationship to earth, relationship to the more than human world, the ancestors, the plants, the animals. And three, another example is that I had a client who finally signed up for a cultural experience that they'd been eyeing for years without kind of crumbling out of fear and talking themselves out of it because they were worried about how they'd be received as a light skinned mixed person. They finally felt like, okay, I feel comfortable enough to sign up for this experience and see what happens. And they ended up making real friends in that experience. This curriculum I consider my most potent medicine. It is curated and refined over many years as a yoga teacher, a trauma therapist, and a coach that specializes in supporting mixed race people. So, if you want to feel more whole and more capable of building the relationships and the community that you've been longing for, join us inside the Mixed Race Belonging Collective. We start the Belonging Building Blocks curriculum on July 12th. The Belonging Blueprint Workshop, which is the first workshop in the curriculum, is going down from noon to 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, July 12th. And the amazing thing about the collective that I love, love, love is that you don't have to wait until then to start your journey. There are resources for you to start learning and connecting with other mixed race people as soon as you sign up for the collective. One thing I want to highlight, specific to the Belonging Building Blocks curriculum, is that I just uploaded the Belonging Wounds and Wisdom quiz, which is an enlightening quiz, a tool that is going to show you where your system is still protecting old pain, right? That belonging wound, as well as the places where you're already thriving. So, this is the wisdom aspect. And just kind of give you a taste of like what your next growth edges are. So, when you take this quiz, you're going to learn about your primary belonging archetype as well as your belonging wound subtype. So I'm going to tell you the belonging archetypes just to kind of pique your interest if you're curious. So the first belonging archetype is the nurturer, the second is the guardian, the third is the facilitator, the fourth is the softie, and the fifth is the lighthouse. And as far as the belonging wound types, there are also 5 types. There's the existence belonging wound, the dignity belonging wound, the expression belonging wound, the abundance belonging wound, and the grief belonging wound. Now, you have to actually sign up for the collective and take the quiz to read more about these archetypes, but just wanted to sort of, give you a little glimpse into the quiz to get you interested and excited. And this quiz is going to get you set up so that you get the most out of belonging building blocks because once you take it, it's going to be like a map back to yourself. So you can amplify the places where you shine and tend to the parts that need care and use what you are learning in the belonging building blocks curriculum to do both of those things. And on top of that, as soon as you sign up for the Mixed Race Belonging Collective, you get access to the Inside Out resource library, which has audio and video somatic practices for you to use. You can watch all of our past workshop replays. We just finished the embodiment series, which is a series of 3 workshops focused on, somatics and embodiment. You can also start participating in the Q&A section, the Q&A forum inside the collective, and you can just like introduce yourself to people. We have a little virtual village altar that we build to kind of hold us through this work. It is really special, and I just want to also give a special shout out to all my existing collective members because they're all fucking awesome. Like, this is a cool ass crew of people. We have artists, we have other therapists in the group, we have people from obviously the United States, but also as far as the Netherlands and Cyprus. So it's also possible, like, depending where you're located, that you might meet people who are living in the same area or state that you live in. And as much as I love supporting you all with my wisdom and expertise, it brings me so much joy to see the ways that community members support each other. This really is an opportunity to build relationships, to build community. I mentioned at the top of the show that I have built real friends through my Instagram network, right? Some of whom I've met in person, even. And, you know, I know that, obviously meeting people in real life, there's something so special about that, so organic, so human. And I want that for you. And the skills you learn in belonging building blocks will help you to develop IRL friendships. But also, I think that the internet is a gift in the ways that it gives us access to this broader network of people, because I know some of you live in places where you might not actually have a lot of mixed community. Maybe it's a primarily white area that you live in. And so something like the Mixed Race Belonging Collective might be your best bet at building community with other mixed people. So, again, if you're interested in joining us inside the Mixed Race Belonging Collective and feeling less alone, if you are ready to feel more capable of building the relationships you've always wanted, to feel more whole, more resilient, more courageous, to feel more relaxed in social situations, to feel more confident in who you are, the Mixed Race Belonging Collective is for you, and this Belonging Building Blocks curriculum is just going to crack open more possibilities for you in your life. Doors are always open for the Mixed Race Belonging Collective. It's $33 a month to join, and you can cancel at any time. The link is in my show notes to get signed up. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or DM me on Instagram at Mixed Race Belonging, and I will be happy to answer those questions for you. Thank you so, so much for listening. I can't wait to hopefully meet you soon if we have not met yet. And I will see you next week.